Welcome to Nightmare Echoes. Listen, scream, and embrace your horror obsession. I'm your host, Eleazar, and in this episode, Joseph joins me to discuss Event Horizon. What led to the drastic edits that shortened the film? What subtle religious symbols are woven into the ship's design? And what filmmaking techniques brought its terrifying effects to life? If you'd like to follow us, all our links in the description. Next week on the podcast, Hellraiser Bloodline. But until then, a movie that asks, can we get the Hellraiser in space concept right this time? Event Horizon.
Welcome to Nightmare Echoes, where we discuss various horror films. Today's film is Event Horizon.
Yeah, it came out in 1997. It's 1 hour and 36 minutes long, although the original cut was 2 hours and 10 minutes. And the studio was like, yeah, let's cut half an hour out of that.
It's
And,
funny because then you have, not long after this, the extended cuts of Lord of the Rings, which are pushing 3 hours in some of them, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah. Paul W.S. Anderson said this was before DVDs hit it big. And
Yeah.
if they had known that all that footage would be needed later for a director's cut and special releases that they could then make their money back on, they would have saved it. But a lot of the archive footage is on like crappy VHS tapes. You see deleted scenes that they look really bad, and then some footage has been just completely lost throughout time.
Yeah. I
But
read that there was some VHS tape that a producer has, and they just haven't connected to watch it, even though they think it's probably really poor quality.
right. Yeah, I mean, it's like Doctor Who. Doctor Who is missing 97 episodes that have, like, the footage has gone missing. But if I can go on this side rant for a second, back before VCRs, people would record things on reel-to-reel tapes for reruns. So if your family sat by, like the youngest kid, I'm assuming, sat by the TV with a microphone and it recorded on reel-to-reel tape your episode of Doctor Who, and you play it back like an audio drama, and that's how people would experience reruns, because reruns weren't a thing that ever happened on TV. But because of this, when a studio in like the 80s, they were like, oh, we don't need these old episodes, we're not going to air them again, they started recording over the old episodes of tapes. So because people had all these audios, two things have happened. Back before someone could say, well, if you look at my IMDb page, you could see that I've been in these 18 movies and these TV shows. People had to hire photographers to take pictures of them while they acted, so they could prove that they've acted in these different dramas or movies, TV shows. So people have gotten the steals of photographers, taking pictures of the actors, and made a slideshow with the audio to recreate the episodes that we can't see. So every episode that has gone missing and still not covered exists as steals and audio. So we can see it, even though that's the poorest quality I've ever watched anything in. But because I want to watch them all, I watched every missing episode this way.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which is crazy. So
Dedication.
Right. It's a rant. So director Paul W.S. Anderson, who did Resident Evil, Soldier, Mortal Kombat, which he just did right before this, and Death Race. Written by Philip Eisner, who did Firestarter Rekindle, The Mutant Chronicles, and Sweet Girl, and then stars a lot of amazing people. Lawrence Fishburne as Captain Miller, The Matrix, John Wick's franchise, Boys in the Hood, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors.
Gotcha.
Sam Neill as Dr. Weir, who I love from Jurassic Park. He's also in Hunt for the Red October, The Omen 3, The Final Conflict. I thought he played a great villain. I have not seen Hunt for the Wilder People.
Taika Waititi's film.
Yeah, or In the Mouth of Madness either. And then we have Kathleen Quinlan as Peters, Joel Richards as Lieutenant Stark, Richard T. Jones as Cooper, Jack Noseworthy as Justin, Jason Isaacs as DJ, Sean Petrie as Smith. The budget was $60 million and they only made $42 million
at the box office.
I know that they made more via VHS sales and DVDs eventually, but it's considered a flop for that reason.
Yeah.
Even though now a lot of people love it and it's a classic.
Yeah, I agree.
So the movie starts with the title card and then we get the credits, which are over a vortex, which we have in the background, which the producer of the film in the commentary said was kind of like their Doctor Who opening theme.
Yeah, and it's kind of, jarring's the wrong word. The music is over an EDM drum beat.
Yeah.
With horns, eerie sounding horns going on in the background, orchestral music. So it's kind of like, okay, all right. Because like the rest of the movie is like a normal orchestral soundtrack, the strings and their standard kind of movie fare until the end credits, which I believe is The Prodigy, I believe.
Yeah, Funky Shit is the name of the song.
You're cussing.
But
There
yeah.
goes our G rating, man.
Yeah, right. Well, if we're covering Event Horizon, I think we've lost our G rating, sir.
Yeah. The original
What-
cut would have gotten an NC-17 rating. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's one point at this where someone in the studio level said, "Hey, is there any way we can get this to a PG-13 level movie?" Like, yeah, it's never gonna happen. Like,
And he purposely wanted to do it so he could do an R movie from the Mortal Kombat, which was a PG-13. So
right. And then we go over a timeline where we get some words kind of out in space floating there that tell us in this alternate timeline of 2015, our first permanent colony was established on the moon.
we certainly missed that, man.
In 2032, commercial mining begins on Mars.
Leon is a fucking liar. We're going to be missing that date for sure.
2040, Deep Space Research Vessel Event Horizon launched to explore the boundaries of the solar system, and she disappeared without a trace past the planet of Neptune and is the worst space disaster on record.
Neptune, 8th planet. Neptune and Earth, when they line up on the same side of the sun at their closest point, they're roughly about 4.3 billion kilometers away, or 2.7 billion miles for the American listeners.
Right. Yeah, it's far. Now it tells us that the year is 2047. So the event horizon has appeared back in Neptune. We see inside the corridors where many personal items are floating before we cut to a horizontally stretched plus sign shaped window with a body floating in front of it. It's kind of iconic. I know my description probably isn't beautiful, but
It's kind of
like
like
a,
rotating in space and zero gravity.
yeah.
Almost kind of reminds me of that Da Vinci schematic of the human body. So I
Yeah,
don't know
I
if
see what
that's
you're
what
saying.
they're referencing. Yeah.
As we approach the body starts to scream, and we get closer. We see that it has a shaved head, bloody scratches all over its body. And when we zoom into its mouth, we see the eyeball of Sam Neill open, who is playing Dr. Weir.
Back to that body.
Yeah.
Scratches puts it lightly. These are like
Yeah.
purposeful cuts. Like that's like lacerations where you would need stitches to.
Almost like ritualistic carvings.
I don't know what it could
I-
possibly mean.
Sure. He turns the alarm off and he looks at pictures of his wife, Claire. Then we see this kind of shrine of her. And I kind of joked because a lot of the pictures in the shrine are like repeating pictures.
I didn't notice that until I read your notes. I was like, oh yeah.
He then shaves and we get to see his electronic blinds as he opens his window, and we zoom out to a space station and we see that there's a lot of small sections that are like living corridors. They don't look like they're easy to get to from one to the other.
Yeah, and they must have like their own artificial gravity because some of them are like perpendicular to the way other ones are.
So they built a big crane in the studio so that even though we get CGI for the space station, we actually have real footage of him showing us how vast this area is. And so they had this big crane of the camera pulling out and spinning, so it looked like the space station was spinning.
Okay. So the whole space station, there's no models there. It's all CGI at this point, or is it just the background that's like
There,
the CGI of the planet?
some of it might have been a model because they used a
Okay.
lot of models.
Yes.
The ship was a lot of models. They built a lot of actual sets at Pinewood Studios. They used Bond Lot, and it's this massive open room that is not heated at all. So if the actors are in just prosthetics and makeup for hours at a time, they're pretty frozen, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So we find out this station is called the Daylight Station, and they're in low Earth orbit. And Weir is called to report to USAC Lewis and Clark and Docking Bay 4.
And just to reference the name here for our non-American listeners, or those that it's been a while since you've had early American history, Lewis and Clark were explorers that explored the Louisiana Purchase.
Yeah. And so far, while there's a lot that was cut from this movie, there's 2 deleted scenes, one that was never filmed that had different ways that this could have opened. One showed a rescue mission that the Lewis and Clark were on to begin with, where a miner had an accident in space and needed to be rescued. And so they are on this dangerous mission with all these crazy effects and wiring that was going to happen, but they just cut it for budgetary reasons. And they use a lot of what they were going to do in there for later on in the film. but it would have been a cool opening thing so we can meet this team, see how amazing they actually are at their job instead of just seeing this one mission.
Yeah. They
And
kind of, I
then,
mean, you can kind of draw out like that they are a tight group
right.
from the actor's portrayal of the characters.
Yeah, and then there was a scene where Weir gets debriefed by, I guess, some superiors in the military or the government about finding the event horizon, and he's kind of getting talked down to and defends himself because he's Dr. Weir and he's amazing and how dare you talk to me like that kind of thing before they tell him that he's going to get sent on a mission to go recover it.
Yeah, it's interesting because throughout the film, he kind of there's a back and forth. Most of the time, he is cowed, and clearly Miller's the top dog here. We're about to meet Miller, but then as things progress in the film, he gets more assertive.
So the crew is docking the ship onto the station, and we meet Smith, Stark, and Justin. Smith asks why they can't go to Mars instead because Mars has a lot of women. And Stark, who is a woman, says he's actually right because where they're going, there's nothing out there. Then the captain turns around and we show that Miller's there. He tells them when someone drops the ball, we get the call. Someone messed up somewhere and we got to go rescue them.
Yeah, I guess they must be the top dog of rescue operations.
So they prepare the ship, and we also meet Cooper, Peters, and DJ. Weir is trying to introduce himself, but they don't have time. They need to quickly get into these gravity couches.
I think they mentioned a tank at one point too.
And I think Star Wars call it a tank.
Back to tank.
Yeah, exactly. Weir thinks the captain doesn't like him too much, but Peter says not to worry. They're just in a rush. Then they explain to him and really the audience that without these tanks, when they hit 30 Gs, the force would liquefy the skeleton. And so they wouldn't live past that.
It's hard to live without your skeleton, man.
Then, as he's going in, DJ asks Weir if he's claustrophobic, and his answer is that he's very claustrophobic. The film cuts out any of the space travel time as we cut to day 56 on the mission. Asleep in the tanks, Weir hears a voice calling for him as Billy. He opens his eyes, the water lowers, and he exits the tank. He hears a whisper voice say, "I'm alone." He searches the ship, he makes it to the bridge, and this is where he sees his wife, Claire. She's telling him that she's so cold. She turns around in the chair, and he sees that her eyes are closed, and her hand grabs his shoulder, and as he turns around, it's Claire there, but now with empty eye sockets, telling him that she's waiting.
Dude is already having nightmares. Like, maybe he's just a wee bit unstable. I don't know.
I do like that the film lets you know right off the bat, okay, this is going to be intense.
Yeah. It's not a pleasant sight to look into eyes when there's not eyes looking back at you.
Yeah. So he screams and wakes up in the tank. Everybody else in the crew is already out. The liquid drains from his tank. He comes out. He's coughing up liquid. Peters and DJ run to him to try to get the liquid out of his lungs. Cooper laughs at him and asks him if he would like some coffee, but he doesn't want any. Cooper then turns to Stark and asks if she would like something hot and black inside of her, which has a double meaning. She flicks him off.
Cooper is of African American descent, so yeah.
Oh yeah, right. Okay. Yeah. And the actor brought a lot of this to the role. Richard T. Jones. They said a lot of his lines were ad-libbed. He often shocked the rest of the actors when he said these funny things, but they were so well done that in the script he was much more of a not well-defined character, and the actor got to bring this to light, and they love that about him.
Yeah, he comes off very charismatic, even with what he just said to her. Yeah.
Right. And she seems to take it as a joke. She flicks him off, and he's like, "Is that an offer?" That's definitely something I said as a teenager. Like,
yeah.
So the captain shows up and rushes them off to their stations, even going as far as to say that Stark cannot get dressed before reporting to the bridge.
She clearly gets on like at least a little t-shirt on.
Yeah.
I mean, she was in a sports bra, so she gets like that on at least.
Right. It's just funny.
Yeah.
Later, Peters is watching her son's party on a tablet. They're all hanging out in the dining area, and the captain comes over to tell her that he did try to find a replacement for her, but he was unsuccessful.
Yeah, she definitely looks a little sad because she had to leave. It's really hard to tell what's going on with the little guy at this point, but clearly he has a handicap of some sort because he's like in a wheelchair, I believe.
Okay. So Smith comes in to tell them that they have 2 hours and 23 minutes until they're arriving in the orbit of Neptune. Stark comes in to say that all boards are green and everything is 5 by 5.
I've heard this before. Basically, it means that all communication systems are up and the best ability to communicate back to Earth or wherever they're communicating with.
Yeah, it was described to me when I was younger as the first 5 is loudness, and the second 5 is the clearness of the communication. Faith on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, use it all the time, 5 by 5. And so I had to look it up because I had a massive crush on Faith growing up. So I had to know what she was talking about.
Is that
Elisha Dushku.
okay? Gotcha.
Miller gives more information and introduces Dr. Weir, which I had to write down. He is also a character in Stargate Atlantis for 4 seasons. Dr. Weir is the head of the Stargate mission.
Okay.
And then we get to Dr. Weir gets to meet all the crew. So Stark is the XO. Justin is the engineer, a freaking young engineer.
Yeah.
Cooper is their rescue technician. Peters is a medical technician. Smith is the pilot. And DJ is the ship's doctor. One fun fact about DJ is the actor that played him, brother, in real life is a doctor. And so he says that guy always has like a utility belt kind of on that has a lot of things that he needs if he's trying to do something in an emergency. And he asked if he could have a utility vest. So he had this vest on the whole movie with all these little components that are strapped into it. And the longer the movie went on, the more he complained about this vest. It was his own idea.
Okay.
Asking the director, like, why'd you let me wear this thing? Like, I have to use all these tools in different scenes and I can't figure out what to use this one for. So Weir goes on a speech and they're not happy about the fact that they're there. Miller states that they are 3 million clicks away from the nearest outpost. And he adds that the last rescue mission this far out was attempted, but both ships were lost. Weir tells them that everything they're about to hear is code black, which means top secret. He tells them that the transmission has been intercepted from a ship in decaying orbit. And he tells them that ship has been identified as the Event Horizon. They say it's all bullshit because, as everybody there knows, the Event Horizon blew up in an accident.
The movie kind of starts off, and the first character we meet is Weir, who would know the truth.
So the captain asks them all to sit back down, and he tells them that the facts as they know it were all lies. The ship wasn't a research vessel, and that the engines didn't go critical and blow up. He says the Event Horizon was a secret government ship that was attempting to go faster than light travel. Smith and Stark both jump up to say that that's impossible because of the law of relativity.
Good old Einstein.
He explains that it doesn't really travel faster than light. It creates a dimensional gateway so they can jump instantaneously from one point of space to another. They ask how it works, and he says it's a bunch of math, and they say they're all smart, and they want him to explain it. And as he starts doing it, then they're like, okay, maybe we're not that smart. Can you simplify it a little bit?
Yeah, explain it like I'm 5. That's what they really want.
So he grabs the centerfold of a 2047 of a woman named Vanessa, pokes holes in the top and bottom of the page. He asks what the fastest way to travel between 2 points is, and Justin answers a straight line. And he says that that's wrong. He folds the paper in half. He pokes a hole through it and says that if you fold space, then point A and B coexist in the same space and time, and the spaceship will be brought through the portal, and then space will be brought to normal. He says that this is called the gravity drive.
Yeah, he puts those 2 holes that he started with, and he puts the pin through, and he pulls it through to kind of show the ship going from point A to point B like that.
And I think Smith is mad that his centerfold's destroyed a
Yep.
little bit. He's like, that's Vanessa.
The guy who wanted to go see women on Mars, so yeah, of course, has the centerfolds on his bunk.
And I feel like this scene has been recreated in many different shows and movies after this.
Sure. This movie's paying homage to Alien, of course, as you mentioned.
He goes on to say that it was designed to go to Proxima Centauri, which is the closest star to Earth after the sun. He says that it vanished without a trace until then.
Yeah, Proxima Centauri is roughly 4.25 million light years away, which is 9.5 trillion kilometers, or approximately 5.8 trillion miles.
So take a long weekend to go.
Just a little bit.
All right, now they're at a briefing table, which is near the cockpit. And then they go over the transmission, which just sounds like a bunch of people screaming and some roar. Weir plays a voice after the scientists ran through filters, and Smith says it sounds like Latin. He plays it again, and they hear Liberate me, which he translates to save me.
Yeah, sounds horrible. Does not sound like a good time.
Now they're flying into Neptune's atmosphere, which gives them a lot of turbulence. Starks radios them to see if anyone will respond. We see a bunch of clouds, and we don't see the ship until they're 900 meters in front of it, and they have to reverse engines to not crash into it. When they pull up, we get to see the size of the event horizon and see how massive in comparison it is. They are in a 40 meters length ship, and the event horizon is 2,200 meters. And I had to note here, because I love Stargate, in comparison, the O'Neill class battleship of the Asgard fleet was 1,500 meters.
And because I love Star Wars, to put it in comparison, an Imperial class Star Destroyer is only 1,600 meters.
So they lock the ship onto the central corridor, but not in a place that Weir is comfortable with.
Yeah, they attach to an antenna array. And you would think Stark, being comms officer, would be like, no, we might need that. I'm just, things could happen out here. We're far away. We want to keep all the antennas and any way of communication safe. But yeah, Miller doesn't seem to have a problem with it.
Yeah. Inside, Stark reports there are no radiation leaks, but the heat is off and there's no gravity, adding that the crew would not survive unless they were in stasis. Miller tells her to find them. She's already scanning, but comes back with weird readings that don't make sense because there's signs of life all over the ship, but they can't find anything definitive. Miller says that they're going to search deck by deck, room by room, which I feel like we don't see a lot of room by room. I guess
there's not a lot of rooms, really.
I would imagine they had some kind of personnel quarters. We just didn't see them.
Sure. Yeah. You don't know exactly how many people are on the ship, really.
Well, for the old crew, I think it was like 6, maybe.
Yeah, but it's such a big ship, big space.
It's a massive, yeah.
Like, I don't know, maybe it's all the storage space to take all the cool stuff they find in Proxima Centauri back to Earth. It's a lot of space for the few people we do know of on the ship.
Right. Miller hands out assignments, and he tells Weir that Weir needs to stay on the ship and guide them from Lewis and Clark. Weir isn't happy about this, but Miller puts his foot down and says once they're secure, he can join them, which I think makes sense. For any rescue team, let's not put the VIP that's on our ship in danger by letting him go into the unknown right away.
Sure, yeah. They obviously do this for a living.
Miller, Justin, and Peters are suiting up to head over, while Cooper teases Justin. Smith playfully waves goodbye to them as the platform descends to access the airlock door.
Yeah, it's just interesting to see how the other characters are acting with one another, and it kind of just shows the closeness that they have, the bonds that they've made through years of dangerous missions.
Yeah. I think they did a good job of making all the characters unique enough that they all have a personality. So on the other side, they use their magnetic boots to stay secure, and Peters opens the outer door. They enter the central corridor, which we have a lot of stuff floating around, which is really poorly aged CGI.
I mean, it wasn't like they were trying to make a living creature in the CGI. They definitely knew, okay, inanimate objects, and yeah, some of it's better than others, but it's not horror. It's not like Xena Warrior Princess type shit or Hercules. Anyways, the 0G going down into this, it's one of the few scenes where they do use it. Obviously, the actors are on wires and whatnot to go through this, but they wanted to do more 0G scenes, but, budgetary reasons.
Right. So this area connects the personnel area at the front of the ship with the engineering at the rear of the ship. They base a lot of this on Nostradamus Cathedral. So a lot of the ship, they felt like the exterior of the ship was their way of, even though it's a solid color, to look like the stained glass windows of the cathedral. Of the medical bay, which we'll get to in a little bit, has pillars like the pillars inside the cathedral. And then they felt like the engineering was like the altar of the cathedral, which has religious implications.
Sure. Yeah. I'm looking at some pictures right now, and I definitely pick up what you're putting down there, or what they were putting down.
Right. Then they notice that there's these things labeled explosive device, and Weir explains that they are all over there so they could blow up this middle section here to separate engineering from the front if they needed to use it as a lifeboat.
Okay.
So Miller makes it to medical, and I thought it looks like so pristine, like it's never been used. We have a floating glove that hits him, and he has a little freak out moment. Justin makes it to engineering.
He really freaks out. You think that somebody that's doing these rescue missions, and he's the captain, he's seen a lot of shit, and then a fucking floating glove freaks him out. He's screaming and shit.
All right. Justin makes it to the engineering door, and inside the first compartment, it looks like Ripley's Believe It or Not, the optical illusion room, as it's spinning around, throws off the balance. But Weir tells him that it's to not compromise the magnetic field. But
whatever you say.
Behind the scenes, you definitely see Lawrence Fishburne walking down and falling over to the railing as he's like, they have that railing there on purpose because it was hard to walk through.
Yeah.
And it's funny, but he had to practice it because he knew at the end of the movie he was going to be running down it.
Oh
And
shit.
another fun thing, because I'm talking about it, another fun thing they did, it was going at 8 RPMs. And in the running scene, they slowed it down to 4 RPMs. So when he ran, they would double the speed of the footage.
So it made him
And
look running
it,
faster.
it made it look like he was running faster, and the rotation stayed at the exact same speed it was
Cool.
before they
Yeah.
slowed it down, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. I've been on one of those things, and yeah, it's definitely disorientating.
Yeah, exactly. Peters makes it to the bridge, and there's blood on the consoles.
Yeah. In this scene, she kind of walks by, but the camera stays where it is, and an ion storm in the atmosphere of Neptune. Flash of light from the outside lights up these little small port windows, and you see this gore and blood caked onto the wall there. She totally missed it.
And then back to Justin, he finds liquid everywhere in the engineering room and says there must have been a coolant leak. We are at Peters to retrieve the ship's log, and it's totally a CD player. Like it's like a bunch of them stacked on top of each other.
It looks like a bunch of CD decks. You could remove the faceplate so no one could steal your CD player from your
Yeah,
car. Yeah.
it's awesome. So she tries to get it out, and the CD is just stuck in there. Then we see a floating body, which is all scarred up, no eyes. Starks thinks it could have been explosive decompression, but Smith says that isn't what happens when explosive decompression happens. The body has scratches all over it, like in Weir's dream. And I like how you said scratches isn't enough to describe
Like
it.
lacerations, big deep cuts. And Peters doesn't freak out as much as Miller did.
And then Justin starts scanning for life forms, and the green beam technology that he uses looks like it's right out of the original Alien film. It's this little flat triangle green beam that's going around. He reports some strange readings, and while it's dark, we get a glimpse into the drive, which is a big metal sphere with 3 metal rings around the surface.
Yeah, the gravity drive on this ship is a thing of dark beauty, my friend. Starting with the sphere, its surface consists of these slightly concave discs with intricate bumps radiating from a larger node at the disk's center. The rings have a thickness of roughly about 8 inches, and they have lights on either side. The rings all fit close to the sphere and one another. The outer ring also has a foot-long spiky protrusion about every foot and a half or so on its outer side. The whole thing looks to stand about 20 feet or so, and it's just floating there in the center of this spherical room with very dangerous looking walls. All the gravity drive components rotate on different axes, and it just looks amazing.
And then it looks like the biblical accurate angel. I used to play Crusaders of the Lost Idols, and 1 month they came out with a new character, and my kids were like, hey, that's a biblical accurate angel. So I looked it up, and in Ezekiel, they talk about the sphere with these rings that turn around that have eyeballs all over it, which is super creepy to look at. And I just thought that was amazing.
You wonder why some people out there think aliens are angels and vice versa. So, yeah.
Right.
You read the original biblical text, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, that's crazy. Weir tells them that's the drive, and then they lose the feed from Justin. We see from his point of view that the rings have all halted, and the spheres in the middle are giving out a bright light.
Yes. So the discs on the sphere kind of start opening slowly in an intricate fashion. Pieces fall in and revealing the light from behind them. And it's like disappear into the light. I don't know where they go, but yeah, it's a really cool opening scene of practical effects.
And then this leaves like a solid sort of black water effect that he goes to touch. And
I would not do in a fucking million years. Like,
right?
I'm walking out. Fuck this.
But it's just like the Stargate movie. I thought
Yes.
that it would look kind of cool.
Yeah.
Then the readings go off the charts, and they say that they can't find Justin.
Well, yeah.
And
So
that-
first he touches it with his finger, and he's
Yep.
like, oh, cool. Then he decides to put his whole fucking hand in, and then he's suddenly pulled in.
Right.
No way. But yeah, as he's pulled in, he's attached to a safety harness, and then back in the spaceship, It has a reading on it of how far he's gone, and Cooper's in there, and that goes probably a little bit over 936 meters before it reaches its limit, and it breaks.
That's a massive cord.
Yeah,
So then the life readings go off the charts, and they say Justin's in trouble. Cooper starts to make his way back from Lewis and Clark to try to help. Then a gravitational distortion, which would make sense if it's a black hole,
mhm.
like a wave from the void, comes out, knocks Miller back, destroying a lot of the sick bay, and then the wave continues to damage much of the bridge of the Lewis and Clark.
Yeah, I know later on, as Weir's trying to explain what's going on, he mentions gravitational distortion, but it's not said here. We're just kind of like, what the fuck happened?
And then Miller calls off for sound off. Everybody respond, but no one does. The crew of the Lewis and Clark try to put out the fires on the ship. Stark reports that they have a hull breach and they're losing atmosphere. And Smith is trying to hold back the flames to help others escape. Cooper makes it to engineering and Justin reappears from the void but seems unconscious. He is able to grab him like they're floating in air and they bounce off the wall together.
Yeah, Justin's not saying anything. He's kind of just floating, and then Cooper is coming into the room as he's coming out of the black void, and he catches him.
Yeah, they crash in the wall, which, like we said, isn't a smooth wall. It's got a lot of weird protrusions coming out of it, which look like it would hurt to hit. Smith is able to get to the captain on the line and says that the ship is losing oxygen and there isn't enough time to repair the damage. Weir says they should escape to the event horizon, but Smith doesn't want to go there, not knowing what happened on the ship. Weir says that it beats dying, but with future knowledge, that statement may not be correct.
I wonder what you dare mean.
Miller then orders the personnel to come to the event horizon, saying that they will meet at the air tanks. Peter starts to bring the heat back online and the gravity as well. We're giving 5-second warning before it turns on. We see a frozen body hit the ground and shatter to the floor, and the leaked fluid from the gravity drive containment room also falls, and they all hit the deck, and Cooper tries to wake Justin.
Yeah, I thought it was a cool effect because clearly the coolant fluid is like CGI. And they go from a CGI effect to practical effect with the liquid falling as gravity comes back on. And then the frozen body falling and shattering is just pretty cool looking too.
So they talked a lot in the special features the difference between a dummy, an animatronic, and prosthetics. They said a dummy is just something you build that represents the body. An animatronic is something that moves and does what you want, but there's no human inside. And if you need that, but you need a human inside, then you have prosthetics to just make it look like that. They talked about that in the special effects. So this one was a dummy. They made a frozen dummy of a human.
I don't believe you. There was a human inside that.
And they built a rig that would drop it on command when they needed it to, and it was designed to shatter when it hit the floor.
I guess they only did one take, or did they make multiple?
They did it in one take. Yeah,
they had to, right? I can imagine.
So, but they did a lot of. Well, this one is obviously supposed to be falling downward. A lot of the movie, if they needed a character to be falling sideways because of gravity, they just built the set at a 90-degree angle.
Yeah.
So in a little bit, when Justin's bloody and falling towards Miller, the gravity is what's pulling the blood towards Miller.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our gravity, right. So on the bridge of the event horizon, Miller asks for a report, and Weir says most of the systems have come back online, but Stark reports that they have none of the bandwidth that they would need to send a call for help.
Maybe that's because somebody attached a fucking ship to the antenna array. Way to go, Smith. Way to go.
So now they're on their own. They next discuss that the air is slowly filling with CO2 and the event horizon scrubbers are gone. Miller says they'll use the ones from the Lewis and Clark, but Stark adds that only gives them enough breathable air for 20 hours. So after that, they'll need to be on their way home. And that means in the gravity tanks.
Yeah, I assume while they're in the tanks, they need less oxygen. Maybe that fluid is oxygenated. I don't know.
They got to
figure it out. It's not explained, but yeah.
Maybe they breathe slow enough that the scrubbers are fixing it faster.
Sure, yeah.
Smith is out on a spacewalk on the Lewis and Clark and reports that they have a 7-meter gash, which can be repaired, but will take time. Miller tells them they only have 20 hours, so it must be done faster than that. Miller asks Weir what happened here, and he doesn't have an answer.
He doesn't have a lot of answers at all, really. He's just kind of taking it all in.
Yeah. In sick bay of the event horizon, Peters arrives and asks the status of Justin. DJ tells her that he seems healthy, but he is unresponsive. Justin's eyes are open, and DJ says that he might wake up in 15 minutes or might never wake up at all. So Cooper's reporting that Justin wasn't there, and then he appeared, and that the gravity drive in the room was full of liquid. Weir says it isn't physically possible, but Cooper knows what he saw.
Yeah, Cooper gets a little animated here, upset when Weir kind of downplays saying what he saw and experienced could not have happened. Understandably so.
Right? Weir says that the drive would have to be on, but it wasn't on. Miller has to quiet them both down and says that he does believe that Cooper saw something, and whatever happened could have happened to them all, so he needs an explanation. Weir goes on to say that a gravitational distortion could mess with space-time, which would make it appear like Justin disappeared, and it would also explain how the Lewis and Clark was damaged. Though after he says all this, he says he doesn't believe that's what happened.
Yeah, he calls Cooper delusional. I think he's delusional. He kind of pats him on like the elbow there, and he's like, "Yeah, dude, you're not making any friends."
Yeah. Miller asks what the core of the gravity drive is made out of, and Weir dismisses him, saying that it's complicated. Miller asks how much time it would need to explain because they have 17 hours and 48 minutes.
So roughly 3 hours have gone by since the initial destruction.
We then get to engineering, where he explains that the three rings align, they create an artificial black hole, which allows the ship to travel to any point in space. Stark thinks harnessing the power of a black hole is too dangerous, and Miller agrees, ordering containment around it and for no one to go near it. Weir thinks that it's perfectly safe, but Miller points out that one of his crew has been affected and his ship is damaged, so he sticks to his orders. He asks them to leave, and we focus on Weir's eye, which seemed to be hypnotized by the core.
Yeah, we can see in the scene the camera kind of gets closer to his eye, and you can see the rings of the gravitational drive rotating, and you see it reflected in his eye.
Peter's spending time in sickbay with Justin when she hears a noise and thinks it's DJ. She watches footage from the original crew of the Event Horizon. When the noise continues, she asks DJ for his location, and he says he's on deck 4. She goes to investigate, arming herself with a bone saw.
The footage that she's watching, it's just them before they take off, right?
Yeah, it's on that CD-ROM drive that she pulled out.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because she was ordered to study it and figure out what she could figure out.
Yeah.
So as she's walking, she comes across a green tent where a medical bed should be, and she can see that there's someone inside it. She pulls back the green tarp to reveal her son is inside a glass encasement, and she sees that his legs have many bloody sores all over them, each about 4 inches in diameter.
Yeah, some kind of leg ulcers, maybe. I don't know. I was just speculating maybe it's caused by some circulatory issue on his lower extremities. I don't know.
I have an answer.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Go.
So they cut the scene out because audiences were too disturbed. But in the original scene, she looks back and sees maggots all over these sores. And the audiences were like, nope, too much. And the director admitted that it does pull away from what he called the drama of the movie if we shock the audience too much.
Okay.
Which I don't know if he forgot what movie he was making when he said
Well, I mean, it does if you increase the horrific stuff just ever so slightly, just subtly, and then you get to the big horrific climax where you see what we see down the road here, and it's like, oh shit, what the fuck am I watching?
Then DJ shows up, grabbing her on the shoulder, which scares her. She looks back and her son's not there. And DJ came because she called him on the radio and then never responded again. So he was like, hey, what'd you need? But it scared the crap out of her.
Mm-hmm.
Smith comes back from his repairs, and Cooper says that they must be trying to break his record for longest time on a spacewalk. Smith says that he would rather spend the next 12 hours out there instead of the next 5 seconds on the Event Horizon.
He and I both, man. I don't know about you.
It's
I would want to be
pretty
there.
ship, man.
I mean, visit that gravitational drive real quick and go, wow, this looks fucking amazing. I'm out though.
Right. In the sickbay, Peters is playing the last entry of the ship's log, and they basically go over a lot of the names of the crew. Captain John Kilpack says they're about to go open the drive to attempt to get to Proxima Centauri. He speaks a little Latin, Ave et Vale.
Mm-hmm.
Translate into what?
Hail and farewell.
Okay. And then the footage turns to running lines, and we hear what seems to be a lot of screams. Peter says she ran it through some filters to see what she can get.
Yeah, not just like screaming like someone's mad at each other, but like screams of agony and pain. Like
right.
Horrific, scary screams.
And then they have a power drain, and Weir says that it's the core. Miller and Weir go, but Miller orders DJ and Peters to stay with Justin because he doesn't want anyone else near the core. In engineering, Weir says that maybe a short in the failsafe circuit could have been causing the drain, and they both work to access a crawl space.
It's funny, like sometimes Weir has answers, and other times he's like, I don't know. I'm always wondering, like, is he hiding because he knows this? Obviously, as he mentioned, code black for the top secret mission, so it's stuff that they don't need to know, and he just says, I don't know, or does he really have no clue, or does he have a big clue and he doesn't want to tell them because he has, at this point, maybe he already has nefarious ideas that he wants to
Yeah, I mean,
do. You know?
if we're just giving our opinions on this, which is what we do, right? Is that I feel like whether or not he was possessed or anything yet, that he's just that personality that thinks he's smarter than them all and above them all and doesn't need them and therefore doesn't want to share what he knows. So whether or
Sure.
not he was, I don't think he would have shared it anyway.
Sure, I can agree with that. He comes off acting his part, not trying to go over Miller, but yeah, he's biding his time, it seems.
Yeah, and then this crawl space he goes into looks to me like it's a mix of Cube and the Matrix, even though the Matrix came out after this, but it's like a bunch of green walls, which looks like they're all like circuits kind of on a wall.
I went to the scene with 2001 Space Odyssey where Dave is turning off Hal.
Yeah.
He sings Daisy Daisy.
It's been a long time since I've seen it.
It's a good movie.
Yeah. DJ finds Justin sneezing and foaming at the mouth and tries to give him an injection. Justin says he's coming. DJ replies, who's coming? Then Justin grabs his face and says, the dark, before continuing to seize.
Justin doesn't just say he's sputtering. He was just foaming at the mouth. And the actor emotes just such a deep primordial fear that he has in his head. Just wanted to relay that.
Right. And it gives us kind of the impression that they're getting transported to hell. We're in the crawl space and he takes some turns to find a panel which is giving off some smoke. He pulls it out. Then the corridor seems to be stretched before the lights go out. He hears Claire calling for him again and he starts calling for Captain Miller's help. His flashlight blinks and then the lights are off. Claire says, be with me. Then when the lights come on, she's there with no eyes, just like in the dream, and finishes the sentence saying forever.
Yeah, this is the only time where Weir shows fear. Well, the last time he shows fear, I guess he showed fear when he was coming out of the grav tanks. But he actually is asking for help. I wonder if Miller was there nearby. Would he have said something, or would he have, done what he does later on in the scenes where he's like, everything's fine. You guys are delusional.
So Miller starts calling for Weir to see if he's okay. When the fluid at the bottom of the core starts to bubble, then a flaming body comes out of it. Peter, Smith, and DJ are joined by Miller and Weir, where Miller is recalling the events. DJ believes that they were hallucinations, asking Weir if he heard anything, but Weir says he didn't, and he also fails to mention any of his own hallucinations about his dead wife.
Yep. Yeah, but Miller's like, I felt heat. This is not just a visual hallucination.
Peter shares that she saw her son about an hour ago sitting on an examination table, and she starts to describe his legs. DJ tries to say this was caused by shock, but she stops him saying that it wasn't.
Yeah, when she gets a little upset real quick there, but then gets her composure back up.
Right. When Smith is asked, he mentions that the ship is fucked. Weir's pissing him off by making fun of his scientific analysis, and everyone has to stop Smith from attacking Weir.
Yeah.
Smith goes on to how Weir fucked with the laws of physics and didn't think there would be a price. DJ holds a surgical knife to Smith's throat to calm him down.
Which I think that people that may not believe in God see science as a god. Like, you mess with the laws of physics and now it's, there's consequences. Like,
sure,
if there is consequences, it's not like it's malevolent and coming after you.
Yeah. The captain gets him to drop the knife, and while DJ is apologizing for what seems like stress, Smith takes that moment to attack Weir again.
Yeah, DJ is pretty stoic. You don't get much, but all of a sudden he has the surgical knife to his crew member's neck too. Somebody he's worked with for a few missions at the very least. And in the scene in the background, after he drops the knife, the way he does it's like he's scared of what he was just doing. Like maybe he wasn't in control. And then he's got his arms kind of really crossed, but like really holding his body, clearly giving us fear.
Miller orders Smith to go with Cooper to continue repairs on Lewis and Clark. and they need no mistakes because any mistakes and nobody goes home. Stark stops the captain to tell him her theory. She believes that there is a connection between the readings and the hallucinations, saying that there's a part of the reaction of some sort of immune system. Miller says that he doesn't have time for this, but she says that the reactions are getting stronger. He asks if she is trying to tell him that the ship is alive. She says that he wanted an answer and it's the only one she has, but he tells her that he really wants to survive the next 10 hours. Peters is pacing back and forth in the background of the sick bay with Justin lying on the medical bed in the foreground. Then she notices that Justin is no longer in the bed. Banging starts from outside the doorway, and then some lights go out. Then an explosion happens behind her, and she runs to the bridge. It looks as if Weir is affected by this because his eyes open when the explosion happens.
Yeah, and then as she gets into the bridge, everybody's kind of hanging around, but Weir is sitting in the captain's chair here.
And then she asks everyone there if they heard that. DJ and Stark did not, and DJ works to calm her down. Once she is calm, he asks her to tell him, and that's when the banging happens on the door of the bridge, which dents the door in a few spots. So this cannot be a hallucination if the door is dented.
Unless it's some weird phenomena where like everybody in the room has the same hallucination, which is highly unlikely.
Yeah, that's cheating the audience, man. We cut to Weir leaving the captain's chair and walking towards the open door while the others are backing away since it's sending off sparks. When Weir tries to open it,
Stark grabs his arm in an arm lock of some sort with
okay,
both their
thank you.
arms to kind of hold him and kind of apply pressure to prevent him to stop and not struggle, or else maybe his arm would break.
Okay. And then an alarm goes off for the forward airlock, and Peters calls asking Miller, Smith, and Cooper if they're at the airlock. They report negative, and she figures it has to be Justin. Peter, Stark, and GJ run to find the inner door of the airlocks closing with Justin without a spacesuit inside. She reports to the captain what the situation is, and Cooper says he is on it, but is stopped by the captain, who needs him to continue repairing. Cooper's used to being that rescue person, right?
Yeah,
yeah. But he's like, I need you to repair the ship. The captain's like, I got it. So Miller's on his way, and Stark tells him that Justin just engaged the override. DJ runs to get a medical kit.
He engaged the override, so they can't open the door.
Right. Peters is able to speak to Justin, which Stark encourages, and he asks if she heard it. Peters tells him she did, and he says that it'll show you things, horrible things. When asked what, he continues to say the dark inside of him from the other place.
Yeah, and at this point, last time Justin spoke some lines in the movie, he was clearly full of fear. Here, he is like almost blank, no emotion, just telling them what kind of horrible things, or not saying what he saw, but just, I got to do this because I saw some horrible shit, just kind of matter of factly.
He'd rather die than continue to see it.
Yeah.
DJ runs while Justin explains that he will do anything not to go back to the other place. And if she could see what he sees, she would not be trying to stop him. He makes it look like he's going to open the inner door, but moves to press the outer door button, which is a 30-second cooldown and sets off a loud alarm. Justin screams at the sound of the alarm, and then he comes out of his fugue-like state. He's confused about where he is. He tells them to open the door, but Stark reports that she can't open it once the outer door has been triggered because it would decompress the whole ship.
Yeah, and now Justin clearly must have been like possessed or something like that, because now he has fear in his voice. He's like, where am I? What the hell's going on? Get me the hell out of here. Definitely showing some fear.
Yeah, there's a lot of emotion in this scene.
Yeah.
Justin keeps begging, then calls for Miller, saying he doesn't want to die. Miller tells him he isn't going to die, but he must listen very carefully. Justin's veins start to expand, and then he starts saying his eyes hurt.
Yeah, he's referring to Peters as a mama bear, and everybody kind of refers to him as baby bear. So they have nicknames for each other, clearly. They definitely have bonds, and she's clearly torn up that he's doing that.
They've just established like a kind of mother-son
Sure.
relationship.
Yeah, makes sense, especially when she's missing her son back home.
Right. The veins were done practically, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah, they look, it's just a short little scene, but it's like, oh, wow, it looks so crazy.
Yeah. Miller tells him to shut his eyes tight and then to blow all the air out of his lungs and crouch into a ball. Justin's eyes start to bleed and the doors open, pulling him into the vacuum of space. And Miller has positioned himself across the airlock to push off, catching Justin and sending him both inside the airlock. Justin's veins then seem to have burst all over his body, and blood is flying out through his mouth.
Yeah, not all his veins, but definitely some ruptured
Sure.
veins. There's a lot of blood, and he has little lacerations or cuts on his body again.
The outer door closes with them inside, and as soon as it does, the airlock is pressurized, and they get him back inside. As they work on him, we cut to Weir on the bridge, where it seems like the gravity drive is calling to him. Sometime later, DJ reports that he has stopped the bleeding and stabilized Justin as best he can, reporting that he should be able to live. It looks like he has been placed into the Baka tank.
The grav tank.
Right.
You're not in Star Wars, man.
Here, I can't remember what it's called.
Or the grav couch, as they also.
Yeah, the gravity couch, right? Yeah. Stark reports the CO2 levels will become toxic in 4 hours. Miller asks Peters to find out what happened to the last crew, and she says she will do it from the bridge, but won't go back to the medical.
So now, if they initially started, it's 20 hours, then they cut down to 17 and some minutes later. Now it's 4 hours. So do you think at this point, like, they've been active this whole time, awake? Do they have stimulants that they're ingesting to?
I think so, but I think
pure adrenaline at this point. Like, that's a long time to be awake. And
yeah, well, if you only have 20 hours left to live,
sure,
why you're not going to waste 3 hours taking a nap?
Sure, but you don't have the rest. It's all adrenaline. You're not at your best either, though. You know.
Also, argue that they lost a little bit of air in that airlock scene.
Sure.
Maybe not that much.
Yeah.
Maybe not that much, but some.
Yeah. It's just hard to tell how much time if you're just gauging by that. But yeah, you have a point. Yeah. So
I mean, they had just woken up when they started the approach. But
and they were asleep for what, 56 days, something like that. So
they're well rested.
Our bodies don't work that way, unfortunately. If you sleep for 12 hours, I mean, you're like, I could stay up forever.
But if I knew I only had 20 hours left to live, what would you spend the last time doing? I mean, it would be obviously editing all the episodes I had ready so they could air post-mortem.
Yeah, I would cook like my last meal, I guess. Yeah, you know, the important stuff.
Stark tells the group what Justin was saying about the dark inside of him, and Miller asks Weir what it means. Weir says it doesn't mean anything and walks away, but Miller stops him, asking him for answers to why Justin tried to kill himself and where the banging for the bridge came. He gives answers about heat levels and expanding metals, and Miller calls him out on his bullshit. Miller tries to ask Weir where the event horizon went for 7 years, and all Weir can say is that he doesn't know.
Yeah, it's like when CEO executives or politicians caught in stuff. I do not recall. You know, when they're under investigation in Congress or whatever. So, anyways, on the note of the movie, what do you think? Do you think he knows more at this point, or do you think he's totally in the dark? I think at this point he has an idea. I think he knows more about the mission as well.
Yeah, and it could be also that maybe he thinks he's going to actually be able to spend time with his wife and therefore doesn't want to stop the possibility of that happening, even if it means he's got to be in hell to do it.
Whatever government agency did not have the psychiatrist to determine that Weir was a little bit more affected by his wife's passing than he let on, I guess. We don't know the agency that is telling Weir what's going on and what to do exactly, but yeah.
Someone said it was Coast Guard. Actually, I think Miller's crew is Coast Guard.
Sure. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Space Coast Guard. Yeah.
Right. There's Space Coast Guard. But Weir says that he needs more time, but Miller points out they don't have it. Miller walks and he starts to hear the voice of an old crewmate named Korik. He calls out Miller, begging, "Don't leave me." Each time he calls out, it's coming from a different corridor. He bends his head down, closes his eyes, and says to himself that it's just in his head. Then he gets some horrific flashes, which pass so fast it's hard to see what was there.
Yeah, so now Miller's kind of having these visual hallucinations. He already had with the dude comes out of the water. So it's him, Peters, and Weir that are having these hallucinations.
Miller then speaks to DJ about a young bowsman named Eddie Korik, who served on the Goliath when the O2 tank ruptured. 4 of them made it on a lifeboat, but Korik was still on board the Goliath when the fire broke out. Interestingly, just a small tangent, Lawrence Fishburne goes on to play Goliath in the Marvel universe. So he goes on to ask DJ if he has ever seen fire in zero gravity and says it's beautiful, like liquid sliding all over everything, which they wanted to show, but then they realized the emotion in Lawrence Fishburne's face sold it enough that they didn't need to waste time or money on special effects because he sold it when he gave that speech. In the end, Miller had to leave him behind, but then he swore he would never lose another crew member. DJ tells him that he has known him a long time and he has never told him that story. And Miller says he's never told anybody that story, but somehow the ship knows it and it's using it to mess with his head. DJ then says he thinks he made a mistake in translation of the distress signal, and he says that it was liberate te, which means save yourself. He says it gets worse playing another section that says ex inferis, which means from hell. DJ goes on to say that if what Weir says is true, the ship could have left the known universe, and no one knows what's out there or what it could have seen and what could have brought back.
Yeah, Weir is definitely hiding his true intentions here. I think he wants to go back on the event horizon and travel back to wherever the hell this messed up ship was.
Miller asks DJ if he believes in hell, and he shakes his head no, and adds that whoever sent that message sure believed in it. That's when Cooper calls over the radio to Miller. Miller says it better be good news, and he responds that it is because they're ready to re-pressurize the Clark and get the hell out of there. They try to pressurize it and find that they're still venting gas. Cooper says he needs 20 more minutes and it'll be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
Peters and Stark are working on the bridge. When the footage comes back from the filters, they both look away because what they see is so horrific. They call for Miller, and the footage displays seem like something right out of the Hellraiser movies with weird sex and torture combined.
Yeah, it looks like someone's arms going through someone's mouth, someone's vomiting. I read that the director was inspired by the paintings of Hieronymus Bosch and Peter Bruegel. They're really cool looking paintings. It's almost like a Where's Waldo picture, but of horrible things happen to these little figures.
The director also did say that he did pull some inspiration from Hellraiser, and it can be seen later in some of the lines they use.
Oh yeah, it's just like the way the gravity drive opens up kind of definitely reminds you of the box in Hellraiser too.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
design and yeah. So yeah, I mean, you pay homage, but yeah.
Yeah, and next week we'll be doing Hellraiser Bloodline with Jesse, and that is Hellraiser in Space.
Hellraiser in Space!
But I thought that this movie did a much better job of Hellraiser in Space than Hellraiser in Space actually ever did.
I assume that this movie also had a much better budget, so you could get. I don't know.
Sure.
I mean, you'll know that information later on, but yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, it had
Listeners, stay tuned to the next episode.
Miller says that they are leaving, and Weir says that they cannot leave. They argue over their mission, but Miller says they are going to abort because the crew are dead and the ship has killed them. He orders Stark to start downloading the ship's hard drives, and DJ gets Justin prepared to move to Lewis and Clark. TJ says he'll need to move them to the gravity tank, and Miller is okay with that. Peter is to get the CO2 scrubbers back to the Clark and needs to take Smith with her.
Mm-hmm.
Weir follows Miller, saying that he can't leave the ship, but Miller says that he won't. He's going to take the Lois and Clark to a safe distance and destroy the event horizon.
I mean, if you really wanted to poke the bear here, saying that to Weir is probably not the best idea, but I guess if they have the drives and the information of what happened to the ships and that horrific scene and takes it back, it'd be like, sorry, it was haunted. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Like in the Poltergeist, no one's going to believe them. No, exactly. The ghost took my house.
Yeah.
So Miller ends this speech with "fuck this ship," and Weir looks like he's ready to hit him or perhaps defend himself.
Yeah.
But then that's when the lights all go out.
Yeah. We see the lights go out in the background sections of the corridor here in the scene while Miller is explaining his plan to Weir. Then the lights go out in the section where they are in the foreground. But we'll soon learn why lights, or the lack thereof, is not that important.
Stark reports that the bioscans went crazy and the core is draining power from the rest of the ship. Weir says, "You can't leave, she won't let you." Miller tells him to get his stuff and get back on Lewis and Clark, where he will find himself walking home. He replies with, "I am home," and backs away into the darkness.
And at this point, like, do they have a brig?
Yeah, I know,
Like,
right?
grab Weir, rustle him to the ground, handcuff the man, and put him on there. But that's not the case. They got other things to do if they only have roughly about 4 hours at this point. So,
Yeah, right. Oh well, next time.
yeah, next time. I'll get him next time, okay? Yeah.
Peter, Peters and Smith are retrieving the scrubbers from engineering, and Smith is too freaked out and wants to leave. But Peters points out that without these, they won't be able to breathe on their way home. She says they need 25 to make it home safely, and the last one is stuck, and she's able to pull it out in time. On their way through that dizzy tunnel, the core starts giving Peters visions of her son. She drops the scrubbers and goes back to the core, and she starts to follow her son down a different corridor, and he's always just out of reach.
So, a little behind the scenes for your listeners. The last one we recorded was Flatliners, and we learned Keith Sutherland's character's Nelson. He follows a young male child down some tunnels, dark and windy tunnels, and doesn't go good for him. Doesn't go good for Peters here. Lesson is, do not follow children into dark tunnels, especially ones if they're wearing like a little hoodie, man. Just walk away.
She climbs the ladder to different levels, and she makes it to the end of the corridor, connecting to another room, and she has a quick flash of herself dead. She looks up to see her son again and walks towards him, not noticing the big hole in her path. She falls down a big vertical shaft, hitting walls along the way and eventually falling onto the walkway next to the gravity drive, and is kind of crushed by her own weight when she hits the ground. She's dead just like in her vision. And they used an animatronic for this. So it didn't look like a stupid dummy just falling. It looked like a human that would react to getting hit like this. I think that's kind of cool that they were able to practically build that.
Yeah, that fall. Ugh.
And I'm thinking there's no way they're going to survive Lewis and Clark now without these 25 scrubbers.
It's gonna be really
Yeah.
rough.
But now they have one less person, so maybe they
True.
need less scrubbers.
I mean, they have a lot less people compared to when they started.
Now Dr. Ware enters the engineering to find Peters with her eyes completely black like the void.
Yeah.
Claire calls him and seems to be transported to the room he woke up in at the start of the film, but now she is there, and he's excited to see her, that she's home. He apologizes for letting his work get between them. The scene changes to her preparing a tub to get ready to bring a razor to her wrist, and he begs her not to do it again.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So like last time we saw Dr. Weir before this scene, he's like, I am home, and he fades in the darkness. And then he gets to Peters, he's almost like sad that she is dead at this point, Obviously this hallucination broke the man, seeing that his wife did that. Like it's just
So as he gets down next to the tub crying, she is now standing next to him with her eyes shut, wearing only panties. She tells him that he is with her now and she has such wonderful things to show him, which is just like Pinhead's line, we have such sights to show you.
Yeah.
She then starts poking his eyes out, but then we cut to him kneeling by the gravity drive, and it's him that's carving his own eyes out, screaming.
Yeah, that's one of the scenes we didn't mention, the horrific stuff that the movie's been leading up to when Stark and Peters see the video. You see the captain holding his hands out with his eyeballs in each hand.
Ugh.
So yeah, like I assume that's kind of what Weir's doing here, is what Captain John Kilpatrick did. So,
but how is
grim?
How is he going to see any of these sights without any eyeballs?
Where we're going, we don't need eyes.
Cooper's done plugging the holes in Lewis and Clark, and Smith asks when they can leave. Smith then notices Weir on the ship, taking an elevator down, and he tries to scream for him as he makes his way back to the event horizon. Smith calls Miller to tell him, and the Miller sees one of the self-destruct boxes that is there to destroy the central corridor is missing.
Mm-hmm.
Miller orders Smith to get off the Clark because he thinks Weir put an explosive on the Clark. Smith doesn't want to because he just finished putting her back together and decides to look around for the bomb instead of leaving.
Yeah, Smith, as you mentioned, starts looking and he finds it, and it's in his belongings because it has his name tag, and he notices there's a little bit of blood there, and he sees that he only has 5 seconds, and with that he lowers his head in a sobbing, terrified face as the bomb goes off.
And they wanted to show more of his body exploding, but when they saw the emotion in his face, the director was like, oh, that sells the scene enough. I don't need to ruin it by adding the special effect.
Yeah, all he's been the entire movie is pretty crotchety, and here he just a smidge of a little emotion right there as he's about to die.
So Miller watches in horror, and Cooper is shot backwards into space. Miller backs into the event horizon and sits down while Cooper is on a piece of debris, having to think his way out of this situation. He decides to blow his air tank and is flying through space like Rocket Man, screaming, "Here I come, motherfuckers!"
So they could have done without that scene. I think Cooper was a great character, but I don't know. They could have just had him like just
Drift off forever.
drift off in space. It's a horrific way to die. You're gonna lose oxygen, and it's like akin to being buried alive.
Yeah, I get your
Makes,
point.
like, okay.
So Miller calls for DJ and tells him that the Clark is gone and that Smith and Cooper are dead. DJ is in disbelief, and Miller explains that it was Weir and that he has to stop him and take him out. He says he'll take care of Weir, grabbing a bone saw, but when he turns around, Weir is already there with his eye sockets empty.
Ugh, ugh. Yeah, it's just lifts him off the ground, and again, he doesn't need eyes anymore. So yeah,
Yeah.
he can see and sense.
Yeah, he grabs him by the throat, lifts him up in the air. Like, yeah, all of a sudden he's got superhuman strength. Miller hears the choking, and DJ is thrown around the room. Weir starts to cut him open. DJ wakes during this. Miller runs to find him suspended with surgical wires and hooks above a surgical bed with his insides lying on the bed.
Yeah, and in the background, you can see on the wall Weir drew some runes. I don't know what they mean. It just looks creepy. It's just another like creepy vibe. He had time to disembowel, or I guess more than disembowel, just remove every organ out of his body and hang him up, and then do some finger painting on the wall before Miller got there. Because of course Weir's already gone out of this room when Miller gets there.
So the actor had asked them to put this scar down his chest for this background that he had.
Yeah.
And so in the movie, he's always like playing with it. He's saying like he's like always feeling around where his scar would be for some medical accident in the past. And so his nightmare is to have his chest ripped open like that again, which they got to put in the character because the director was happy with people adding to their character and saying what their character would feel.
Yeah.
And so he was able to add that. To do it, though, they built a dummy of him, a practical dummy with his chest ripped open. And as the director
I thought it was really the actor, man. You're ruining my immersion.
Right. That's what he says that a lot of people actually come up to him thinking that they did that practically with the actor. And he's like, how did I have my organs on the table? Like, but that actor asked for the dummy. He's like, when you're done, can I have the dummy?
Hell yeah.
And they told him no, that they might be able to use it again. Like, when? If I'm in the movie? Like, what?
Yeah.
It's me.
My face. Yeah.
I thought it was me. I looked at it and I'm like, whoa, that's me. So, but he says if anybody still has it, if they send him a postcard, he'll definitely buy it off of them.
Yeah.
Because he still wants it. Miller then arms himself with a handgun with a drum magazine, kind of like the drum Constantine has on a shotgun at the end of that movie. Miller's ready to kill Weir and saying that he will never leave the ship. He searches the ship and finds Stark unconscious and using smelling salts to wake her up. He helps her up, and then Miller reaches for the nail gun that he had placed near Stark's body, but it has mysteriously vanished. Then the captain chair spins around and Weir is in it, and the nail gun is in his lap, though his head is hunched over in a way that makes him seem dead.
Yeah, so apparently Weir, while he was busy dissecting DJ and finger painting the runes, he also had time to sew up his eyes. I guess they did this maybe for budgetary reasons instead of the CGI. Maybe they didn't want the whole scene with his creepy eyeless eyes. It's probably easier with them sewn up.
I think it's a cooler effect than the eyes open anyway.
Okay.
I think the eyes hollow, it's weird CGI.
Yeah, I think it works in like the brief instances you see it, like with his wife, Claire. It's just like a brief shock moment, or like when DJ turns around and sees him. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
Nowadays, they could do that and be like, huh.
Yeah. Miller lowers Stark back to the floor carefully, and Weir lifts his head. Miller asks what happened to his eyes, and he says, where we're going, we won't need eyes to see.
And I love what you said here.
Yeah. And it's like Doc Brown saying, where we're going, we don't need roads. Miller says it's his invention and it's supposed to take them to the stars, but instead it took them to a dimension of pure chaos and evil. Weir says that the ship came back beautiful and alive, but Miller points out that it killed the crew, and Weir says it has a new crew. But does it really? Like, how many are left?
Let's see. Weir, Miller, Stark. Oh, and Justin.
And then the guy floating off into space right now. So Weir begins the sequence of the gravity drive, telling Miller that he's going to show them where the ship has been. Just then, Stark attacks with a canister, but Weir stops it and throws her across the floor into the wall, and she's knocked out again.
Yeah, Stark has this canister lifted over her head, but Weir quickly puts out his arm and grabs her by the neck and quickly tosses her like a rag doll.
And if Margot's watching, she said she would have to be careful because getting knocked out that many times is really bad for your brain.
Believe it. I believe it. I mean, you look at all the issues that football players have. Not good.
Miller tells them that he will blow out the hall, and Weir doesn't think he'll miss with a gun. Then Cooper shows back up, heading to the elongated plus window, unable to slow down. Weir takes aim and fires at Cooper, sending the harpoon right through the window, and the pressure from the hole knocks Cooper back again.
Poor guy can't get back home.
Miller uses this moment to jump over a counter for cover as Weir fires at him. The window shatters, and everything not bolted down goes right out the window. Miller holds on, and the captain's chair is sucked through the window, but it's too big to fit. Weir is on the floor, and it sounds like he's asking Miller for help. The floor, which Weir is holding, comes up, and his fingers can't hold on anymore, and he's sucked through the vacuum of space.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting. So when the captain's chair goes up, it looks like Weir's body's in there, and it looks like there's some major head trauma. But I guess he comes off, and yeah, he's hanging there. I don't think he's calling, "Hey, Miller, help me." I think he's like screaming, "Miller, I'm gonna get you!" Like,
oh, okay,
Miller.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah.
The door starts to close to protect the rest of the ship, and Miller's able to find a rod that isn't bolted down to brace it. Then he goes to get Stark. He reaches out, and she misses, and it looks like it won't work. And he yells, "I'm not going to leave you." And she tries again, and he pulls her across the floor as the door's shut. So they both make it out.
Yeah, anytime I see this scene where somebody's reaching out for somebody to grab their hand, I always go to Indiana Jones' The Last Crusade.
I knew you would say that.
Where he's trying to save the Nazi blonde, and she just wants that Holy Grail, man.
Yep. The alarm for the forward airlock sounds, and she says it can't be Weir, and they both arm themselves just in case. But obviously it's Cooper when he comes in. He's yelling for them not to hit him, and there's a little panic when they get the helmet off, and he acts like he still can't breathe.
I mean, he let all the air out to get back onto the ship, so I guess he would have had to expel all the air out of his body to do that. I don't know. That's why it's like this scene is just like, how long is he out there without air? It's just,
So with the bridge gone, they don't know how to stop it, and Miller asks Stark if she could do it from engineering. She says she's not confident, and Cooper adds that he would rather die than go into that room. Miller says that they will blow the central corridor, separating the front half, which they will use as a life raft until they are rescued, and they are going to put themselves in stasis. Miller tells Cooper to activate the emergency beacon. Stark is ready to
goes to ready the tanks to set them up.
Right.
Yeah.
And he will arm the bombs manually. As he's armed the first one, they have 5 minutes left, and Cooper gets the emergency beacon activated. Cooper then notices blood is dripping on him, and he looks up to see the blood is filling the area where the lights are.
Yeah, it's like on the ceiling. Yeah, I don't know what's going on here, but
going through all the walls.
Yeah.
He tries to warn Stark, who watches as the big tank in the middle of the room fills with blood before bursting in a shining moment.
Yep. Very, another homage. Yeah, and I guess it's just, obviously the ship's alive and possessed. It's like haunted houses making walls bleed and shit. That's basically what the ship is doing here. So, yeah.
Yeah, the director said that they wanted to make a haunted house movie in space because with the haunted house movie, you always have the option to go in the local motel.
As we learned from Poltergeist, everybody knows this, and you always remove the TVs.
But in this movie, the local motel is a little too far away.
What is it? A couple trillion miles or so? Yeah, it's a little bit.
It's more than a night's walk.
I mean, yeah.
As a massive wave comes out towards the camera, she jumps out of the way, down the shaft, and Cooper helps her up, and then they run. Miller is arming the last bomb, and they have 3 minutes left till the portal opens. He grabs a handheld device to remote detonate. He calls to let them know that it's armed, and Stark tells him that they have to get out of there now. That's when Bozeman Cork shows up and starts shooting fire at Miller, forcing him down the dizzy tunnel pathway to engineering.
Yeah, I think he's a Bozeman. I guess it's a position.
It's a rank.
A rank. Yeah. And I think his name is Edmund. Yeah.
Edmund Cork.
Yeah. Bozeman Edmund Cork. Yeah. He can't go the other way, so he has to go into the gravity drive room.
And I know hindsight is 2020, but next time start at the far end.
Yeah, right.
And stay at the end you're going to stay at. That makes more sense.
Or maybe he would have appeared earlier at that point. He wouldn't have armed the rest of the pieces then. So who knows?
I think one bomb would have been enough to detach them.
Probably so. I didn't mention this, but I mean, how spooky scary the containment thing is, just to make it a little bit another level here. The doors to this one are different, and they kind of have spikes at the end of the doors.
Yeah.
You notice that? So when he's jumping through to go into it to escape his former colleague that he wasn't unable to save, he has to jump through. It looks like the spikes coming at him as the door closes.
It's a beautiful jump roll.
Yeah. I don't know how many takes that took for that stunt man. I assume it wasn't Mr. Fishburne, but maybe it was.
Well, he did the running part. I don't know if he did the jump and roll part. So now he is where he doesn't want to be, and the gateway is opening in 2 minutes. He looks at the remote and doesn't press it, and then the whole room is now on fire. Cork is back and throws him back against the wall of those pyramid-shaped things, which can't feel great.
Yeah, you got the spires, then you have these pyramidical shapes. Yeah, it's just not a very smooth surface.
Why couldn't they made it like cushions, man?
I know, like a psych ward, cushioned walls, make the gravity drive feel comfy.
He rolls into the blood-filled liquids to put out the fire. A fiery Cork walks up on top of the liquid towards him. Miller says that the figure is not Cork. He watched him die, and then it shapeshifts into Weir, but with no hair, and his eyeballs are back.
His eyes are back, and he has a lot more ritual cutting, scarring, whatever's going on with his body. It's, yeah.
Weir goes on to say that the ship brought him back, and he won't let Miller destroy it. Interestingly, in one of the alternate versions that they screen tested it, they never had Weir come back, and they had it all about Miller's past and his battle with his past, which is interesting.
Sure.
Miller says he gets it, they're going to hell, but Weir's saying the word isn't enough. He grabs his head to give him a vision of hell, and we see Justin Smith and DJ and Peters with chains, gags, barbed wire, maggots, and lots of blood, and they're really channeling Hellraiser here.
Yeah.
Miller pulls out one of the CO2 scrubbers from under the liquid and starts to hit Weir repeatedly, saying that you will not take my crew, but Weir eventually just knocks it away and starts hitting Miller back.
Yep.
The gravity drive aligns, ready to open the gateway, and Weir says that the people aren't his crew and that they belong to this ship.
Yeah, we start seeing in the background the gravity drive, the discs on the surface start to open in their intricate fashion as the camera kind of pans back as they're talking.
Miller tries to offer himself to let the others go, but Weir doesn't agree. As the gate opens, Miller finds the remote detonator.
And, earlier, Weir was able to magically or whatever get the nail gun away, takes it away from Miller. But he knows he has a detonator, and it's like he doesn't do it here.
Weir keeps asking him, do you see? And when Miller spins around with the remote, he says, yes, I see, and hits the button. Weir screams, the central corridor blows. Cooper and Stark are thrown by force. They fly clear as the rear section is pulled into the black hole, which reseals itself.
Yeah, I thought the black hole was contained in the containment rings, and so it would just implode in itself or something. I don't know how it works, but yeah, it's just I didn't understand why Neptune just swallows up that portion of the ship. But maybe there's more we don't know about Neptune. Huh? Maybe we need to get the scientists on that ship and be like, Neptune's hungry.
I thought it was in space outside of Neptune. Oh, it's in its atmosphere, right?
Yeah, it's in its atmosphere. Yeah. It's kind of confusing because you see some scenes, the event horizon clearly in orbit around it, but then they mention it's in lower orbit, so I guess the signal has decayed. I mean, by the time they hear the signal,
right? I think that's how the thing is supposed to pull you in. That's the hole punch through the paper.
Sure.
I think the black hole gets the ship, transports it, but it just didn't make it to the destination they wanted it to.
Who knows where they went? I mean,
Yeah,
maybe
right.
maybe it's just
This time they made it.
Miller and Weir off
Yeah.
in some hell pain dimension. Ugh.
Okay, Cooper and Stark look at each other. They're all bloody everywhere. Stark looks to where the other half used to be and whispers Miller. We get the text that reads 72 days later, and Rescue 1 is on board. One of the rescue team is
Dictating what he's finding as he
okay.
kind of is making scans and kind of doing the rescue thing that we saw the Lewis and Clark do.
Oh,
Earlier.
yeah. Here we go. He says there are 3 survivors: Cooper, Justin, and Lieutenant Stark.
Yeah, I remembered.
Good job. Justin seems to be sustained massive injuries, but he's still alive.
Mm-hmm.
They open this tank to let Stark out, and she struggles to get up and then ask about the other 2. The rescue crew says that they are all fine, lifting his mask to reveal the bald, scarred Weir, saying they're with us.
Yeah.
She screams, yeah, and then is woken up by the real rescue team and Cooper, who work to calm her down.
Yep.
They call for a sedative, but she is frantic as the doors seem to close, and Cooper tells her they are safe, but are they really?
Yeah, and the camera kind of pans back as the door closes, and then cue "Funky Shit" by Prodigy. Like
the movie.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I think they did a decent job, better than it received from the box office at the time, in my opinion.
Yeah. So there's a couple of these facts I want to go over that I took over a lot of notes watching all of the special features on the Blu-ray.
Mhm.
I like that they referenced Alien when they wanted to make the ship of the Lewis and Clark a little dirty, just to try to make it look like it's lived in and used.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you go up to the space station, and NASA has all that stuff on lockdown on what dirt, grime could like fuck up the computers and all the other systems up there, and they even have to have special shaving foam to shave up there. But hey, it's the future. They have different technology that's immune to dirt and grime, I guess.
Lawrence Fishburne is so practiced ahead of acting that he comes into the scene really knowing what he wants to do, and they normally have their best takes by take 4. Where Sam Neill, on the other hand, likes to perfect his acting as he's doing the scenes, so his scenes start to get really good around take 5.
Yeah, this explains like there's not too many scenes where they're both talking. So that's why they kind of do the shots where it's just Lawrence Fishburne talking, and then even though they're talking to each other, then it has another close up of Neil talking because of that. I didn't notice, but you did mention that the airlock. Or do they use airlock 13?
No, so they pass it by when they're looking for a place to park. They use airlock 9. At least Justin ejects himself out of airlock 19.
Gotcha. Okay.
Which is a very Stephen King number. Like a lot of Stephen King books reference the number 19.
Gotcha.
Jason Isaac was very intimidated when he first met Lawrence Fishburne because he idolized him, and he was shocked when Lawrence Fishburne came up to him and asked, "How do you think I did in that take?" And he goes, "Well, I think when you walked by, you could have looked in this area right there. I think that might have sold the scene a little better." And he goes, "Yeah, it's a good idea." And he did it in the next take. And Jason Isaac is like, "Did I just give feedback to Lawrence Fishburne and I'm an idiot? Like, why would I do that?" But they hit it off really well. And he said he ended up calling him Florence instead of Lawrence Fishburne. We call him Florence. And a lot of which was he kind of laughed off, but then a lot of the crew started calling him that.
Oh.
Oh,
But that's awesome. Like when, the cast of a movie, I mean, what these people work together, at least on this film for only a few weeks, but that they can, that have that camaraderie while they make that film is pretty awesome. Because you hear other actors that get kind of, I'm only going to be in my trailer,
right.
or they have to do that method acting where I'm in the character and they have to be an asshole the whole time to everybody because their character is an asshole in the film. It's good when people can do it this way. It's like it has to make the movie such a more fun experience, even though it's dealing with such dark, grotesque shit.
Right. Sam Neill owns a vineyard, and he brought everyone in the crew their own bottle of wine from his own vineyard.
Cool. Hey, you give away free samples, you get people coming back potentially. So I will say the flamethrower scenes they actually used would be akin to a military flamethrower to shoot those scenes. Like the fire kind of shoots out meters long, and they accidentally. I know there's scenes in the set where it's actually on fire, but they also had an accident where it wasn't supposed to be on fire yet. They weren't ready for that, and so they had to rebuild the set.
Yeah, the space suits that they had to wear for a lot of the film were super
Oh yeah.
heavy. They weren't allowed to sit down because if they did, they would break the chairs. So they had to build these standing posts for them to lean on to get some rest,
Yeah.
which I think is fascinating.
Yeah. So likes, dislikes, hot takes, anything like that from you?
I mean, for me, the CGI aged, but I like the story a lot.
Sure.
I still enjoy watching this movie. The goriness goes so far that it's hard to watch it with anybody that isn't into that kind of thing. Like, I definitely watched this with Jesse. He would totally be into it, but I couldn't show my wife this. And my kids, I don't think they'd be ready for it for a while. I mean, they've watched a lot of things. Like, my oldest has watched all the Saw movies, but for some reason, when it's torture and sex together, it's not something I want to show my kids.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah. But other than that, I like it.
Okay. Yeah. I think it stands among other sci-fi horror movies like John Carpenter's The Thing, of course, as we mentioned, Alien, and even like David Cronenberg's Fly. They all kind of come at it a different way, dropping that, little scoop of horror into their sci-fi. This has a more heaping dose. Obviously, it gets comparisons to Alien because something's happening on the spaceship, whereas like Alien has the almost like a slasher is after everybody, if you want to think of it that way, and it's chasing them so that they know what it is. Whereas this, it's more psychological. They don't know exactly what's going on. And some people might say that's just kind of sloppy writing. They didn't know what was going on, so they just make shit up as it goes. But I don't think that was the case here.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to express what's going on in characters' minds, so they do it the best with the hallucinations. Plus, like, it's interesting. Obviously, Miller's dealing with PTSD, so it's weird. And back then, when this movie was made, it wasn't really as to the forefront of our culture as it is more today with trauma. But like you said, the special effects, the CGI stuff, it's always going to age. But the director with the guy who did a lot of the models, who also did the models for Star Wars, I believe, told him that practical effects kind of last forever. And you can kind of see it, in movies that take the time and the money to make all those models. It kind of stands up better than, you ever watch Babylon 5? The TV show? Yeah. But that ship sequence, it's totally dated CGI. It's like,
yeah,
oh,
you're
man,
right.
yeah.
You're
But
right.
like all the practical, all the aliens and stuff,
The
with
story's so
makeup.
good.
Oh yeah. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the CGI just doesn't stand up. So they definitely did wise to do the models, and what they
Yeah.
did use, it's not.
It
In
doesn't kill
passing,
it.
it doesn't kill it. It doesn't kill it. Like,
Yeah.
it's the eyes, it's the liquid that's floating, and the
The
debris kind of floating.
tools, yeah, the debris.
Yeah, yeah. It's not too much. It's not like they have like what to compare like the CGI'd Leia or Tarkin in Rogue One. It's just like, oh god, my immersion. This is so uncanny valley.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, and fuck, that movie was what 2010. So like almost decade or 15 years later. But
Yeah, I mean, anytime new technology joins film, there is like a digression, is that a right word? Of
totally.
like, right. So because when sound before, there was a time when all films were silent films and any
Yep.
soundtrack had to be played like on an organ there at the theater, or someone was playing a piano or something like that for the soundtrack. But when sound came into movies, it felt like actors forgot how to act as they're all sitting around a table talking into a flower plant that is hiding the camera. And the acting got a lot worse for a little bit.
Yeah, and it ruined. I mean, that didn't ruin the careers, but I mean, a lot of those actors, the silent era, didn't have, I guess you could say, pleasing voices to the studios, so they were out of a job when their voice was like, "Hi, my name is Billy," like this really annoying or irritating or grating voice. sorry, I was just trying to be.
It worked.
Cut that out, but yeah, you know what I mean. They didn't have the voice, or maybe it wasn't the voice that they imagined or the audience would imagine. Like, oh, this woman looks sultry, so she should have a sultry, smooth voice. No, or here's this guy who's like a big brawny guy, and he's like the high pitched voice I was trying to do. But yeah, beyond that, I think the acting is done fairly well. It's not Oscar worthy, making people cry and pulling the heartstrings or whatever, but it's not meant to do that. It's meant to evoke fear. It's a horror movie at the end of the day, right?
I did like a lot of the cast, though.
Yeah, no, I think they do just fine.
Anything else?
No, it's definitely not for children. It deals with some stuff that nightmares are made out of, for sure.
Completely.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. This has been Nightmare Echoes. We have episodes every Monday. If you would like to follow us on Instagram, we're at Nightmare Echoes Pod. And I hope you get to hear us next week. Bye.
All right. Take care, everyone. It's like, oh, he's screaming and shit, and it's just like, okay. Hey, maybe cut off that scream I just did. It sounded weird.
Yeah. Or slow it down and make it weirder. Just kidding.
No. Here we go, making more sounds. Why? I'm doing this myself.